Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be at the Iowa State Fair. The best state fair in the country, right? Not even close. Not even close. And this crowd is far larger than any No Kings rally I've ever seen. Isn't that true? Which is good. Which, by the way, I seen one of these No Kings rallies last week in Cedar Rapids. There's maybe a dozen people. We were going to the Cedar Rapids Lincoln GOP dinner. And we went past, and I told Hank, my driver, I said, Hank, put the window down. And he did. And I said, Trump 2028. And there was a lot of one-finger responses. And it wasn't a thumbs up, right? It wasn't a thumbs up. But also, I want to acknowledge everyone. I want to say, we're not going to do a land acknowledgement when I'm up here, right? Like my opponent. We're not going to do that. So we're gonna skip that, past that part. And we're running for Congress because we need more builders in Congress and less bureaucrats. Isn't that true? Too many bureaucrats, too many politicians. I think there's too many attorneys as well, right? I don't like attorneys. I got to deal with attorneys. They bill me too much. But, you know, and I know a little bit about regulation and budgets because I'm a business guy. I've built homes all across Iowa, all across eastern Iowa. I've built homes in Clear Lake, in Dyersville, and Grinnell. And what I know is there's too many regulations. There's too much compliance. There's too much red tape to unleash the American dream. And so I've said we got to unleash the American dream. We got to make sure that the federal government is doing everything they can to incentivize state and local governments to lower their barriers to entry, to allow people to build homes. I've also said we have to get in charge of this waste, fraud, and abuse that happens all over. We've seen it. There's projected to be over $1 trillion of waste, fraud, and abuse in our federal government. And I just talked to a single mother at Pizza Ranch on Thursday night. I was in Waverly. She came up to me and she said, myself, my daughter who's 19 years old, we're going to be voting for you in November. And she's tired of paying my hard-earned taxpayer dollars to the government, and it's used for people to commit felonies, for people to have these things like the Leering Centers in Minneapolis, right? Remember the Leering Centers? Isn't that crazy? Ridiculous? We got to uncover all that because there's too many people. They're out there, they're working their butts off, and they're getting ripped off, and their government's screwing them over. So that's where we're running for Congress. 3 things that we started out September 8th of last year we announced. We said, number 1, we're not taking any corporate PAC money, right? So no money from BlackRock, no money from Pfizer, no money from Goldman Sachs, no money from any of these huge, gigantic institutions and corporations that have screwed us over for years. I'll be the only Republican in Congress not taking corporate PAC money, by the way. So we're going to start that trend. We're going to start it. The second thing is we have to have term limits, right? These people, they go up there. They're up there for far too long. I'm only 29. I don't want to be up there when I'm 50, right? Sometimes I feel like I'm 50, but I don't want to be up there in the next 30 years from now. The third thing is you have to stop this insider trading that happens. Nancy Pelosi, she's worth about $2. She's coming out worth about $200 million. That's wrong. The people in Washington should stop getting rich and start making sure our wages go up here in Iowa. And then the last thing is, and I got to compete with this tractor over here. This is kind of hard, right? He's a little bit louder than me. So the last thing is you have to stop the lawmaker to lobbyist pipeline. So these people go in there, they go in there for 2 or 3 terms, they come out, and then they become rich, becoming lobbyists on K Street. We have to stop that. We have to stop the 7-figure salaries after these people are elected to office. And so this is where I'm running against an opponent. Her name's Lindsey James. We call her radical left Lindsey James. So she comes from Portland, first and foremost. She comes from Portland. You guys like Portland? We don't like Portland, okay? And then when she was in the legislature, she moved here 10 years ago. She immediately ran for office. Since she's been in the legislature, she's missed over 50% of her votes. Over 50%. So she's asking you all to send her to Washington to get a pay raise and a job promotion. She can't show up to the current job she's elected for. I think that's wrong, right? I would go bankrupt. I would lose my job if I only showed up 50% of the time, okay? And then when she was there, she was voting for illegals to get taxpayer-funded benefits like housing assistance, food stamps, right? That's no good. She was voting to allow biological men in women's sports. She was voting to give taxpayer money to prisoners for sex changes, which is totally screwed up. And I've said this, if you elected Lindsey James dog catcher, imagine this, you elect Lindsey James dog catcher, and then Say you take your golden retriever out and it gets off the leash and it goes to the pound. Next thing you know, your golden retriever, it's no longer Max, but it's Mary. Right? Right? That's what would happen. So we can't let these people get elected because this is about common sense versus crazy. That's what we're dealing with this in an election. It's common sense versus crazy, and common sense must win. Common sense must win. And we're going to win. And we're going to win. So here's what I'm going to leave you with. Remember this November to vote red. You guys know what red means? Remove every Democrat. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.